See now dropping close to 6,000. Could this be the nail in the coffin for Bitcoin? Bob Pisani's breaking it down from the New York Stock Exchange. Bob.
Hello there, Scotty. Another painful day for Bitcoin, dropping 10% or nearly $10 billion in the last 24 hours. Ouch again. The problem here is we're no closer to a Bitcoin ETF. Despite a novel approach to getting around the issue that bothers the SEC. Overnight, the SEC said they were delaying a decision on the SolidX Bitcoin ETF, which is sponsored by SolidX Management with marketing assistance from Van Eck Securities. Now, a decision was been put off until September 30th, but don't kid yourself. The SEC is likely not considering anything other than a lengthy brief on why they will deny the ETF at that time, just as they denied the Winklevoss Bitcoin ETF last month. The reason they are likely to deny it, it just doesn't fully address the issues that worry the SEC about Bitcoin. They denied the Winklevoss application on the grounds that most Bitcoin trading occurs outside the United States on unregulated exchanges that are subject to fraud and manipulation. That's a big barrier to overcome. Now, to its credit, the Van Eck application tries to address these issues by putting a hefty $200,000 price tag on the initial entry to join the club, thus scaring away a lot of retail investors. And they also add a layer of insurance to protect investors in the event that the coins are hacked or stolen. But this is not likely to satisfy the SEC. Now, does it really matter if we get a Bitcoin ETF or not? I think it really does matter. I think it matters a lot. This whole summer rally, just take a look at Bitcoin, going from 6,300 to 8,300 in a couple weeks. That was the middle of July. That was largely based on speculation that a Bitcoin ETF might be approved. No surprise, the recent top in Bitcoin was July 25th. That was the day before the SEC denied the Winklevoss application, and it's been down 8 of the last 10 trading days. And look at it, it's right back to where it was before all this speculation started. And Scott, the reason I think this is worrisome is that obviously Bitcoin doesn't have a lot of internal energy on its own, and it's depending upon new buyers coming in to move the price up. And that was the big hope behind the ETF. That is, I still think, very doubtful right now. Back to you.
Yep, Bob, thanks so much. Bob Pisani down at the Stock Exchange. For more, let's bring in Dan Moorhead. He's the CEO of Pantera Capital, one of the world's largest crypto hedge funds. And despite the plunge, he is still betting on Bitcoin. Dan's with us, as you can see, from San Francisco. Dan, welcome. It's good to have you on Fast tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
I'm sure you heard Pisani's report just now. What do you think of the correlation between the ETF trouble and this decline in Bitcoin that we've seen?
Oh, I think the main thing to remember is that Bitcoin's like very early stage venture, but it has a real-time price feed. And that's a unique thing, and people get really excited about the price and overreact, I think, to announcements. There's been a couple of big things coming out in the last week, and the ETF rejection is the same story we've had for 5 years. I think the SEC's been very cautious with an ETF.
Right. Well, how much do you think an ETF actually matters to the success of Bitcoin, or at the very least to help right this, what seemingly is a listing ship?
Oh, yeah, it's all perspective, right? Bitcoin's up 82% year on year, so it's still doing very, very well. And the perspective one should have is, given that Bitcoin is such early stage venture type security or asset, it needs to be done as hedge funds first. And Pantera launched the first cryptocurrency product in the U.S. 5 years ago. We looked at ETFs, we looked at a lot of different products, and we picked hedge fund structure. I still think that's the best way to go, and I think it's going to be quite a long time until an ETF is approved. And here's the perspective. The last asset class to get approved for ETF certification was copper. And copper's been on Earth for 10,000 years, and it just got approved in 2012 after a very long multi-year process. I think ETFs in Bitcoin still have quite a ways to go.
Hey, Dan, it's Tim Seymour. Welcome back. So what does get you excited then? What's the next catalyst here, and why should it just be about an ETF? Because you've been doing this a long time. You weren't doing it for the ETF.
Yeah, so that's what I love about markets is news comes out, and some people take things really positively and make a big deal out of them, and some people don't. In the last 3 or 4 business days, we've had 2 pieces of news. The ETF being rejected for the 5th time, that doesn't seem like it's very interesting to me. But on Friday, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, which also owns $42 billion worth of other exchanges, launched a cryptocurrency exchange called Bakkt. That is huge news. The other investors, including Pantera, are BCG, Microsoft, that is going to be a very profound impact over the next 5 or 10 years for the markets. And to my mind, that's what people should be focused on.
Karen?
And it's Karen. There's been a few people who've said 6,000, it's sort of the cost to mine, and that should be some sort of floor. I never quite really fully bought that, but if enough people think 6,000 is the floor, well, then it's the floor. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to ever do those kind of real-world mining, cost of mining kind of calculations. All these are sunk costs. People built these enormous big data centers of computer chips that are doing the mining. So I think it's unlikely to have any kind of fixed support there. Company might run at a loss for 6 months hoping that the price is coming back. So I think there really isn't a level like in copper where you get below the marginal cost of production, people just stop their mines. Here, I think there isn't some kind of fixed floor like that. And again, Bitcoin was half this price a year ago when it was all working great. So the price could go down, but I really do think a year from now it'll be much, much higher than it is today.
Pete, last word to you.
Well, I think right now it's so difficult just to determine, where to be, how to be, and the volumes. When we've seen the volumes come back, Scott, that's actually moved Bitcoin, but that's been one of the things. AMD is the way I've been playing this so far.